What's going on, guys? I'm Kason, also known as Mr. Strongbro on YouTube, and today I'm doing something completely different that I've never done before. I've got a gaming channel, but this will be my first official video on this particular channel here. Ultimately, I want to make videos based on my jiu-jitsu journey becoming better and better. Hey, I'm Kason. Nice to meet you. So recently I got Gordon Ryan's instructional attacking from top pins, the mount. And I'm telling you guys, that instructional is so freaking bomb. I've literally watched it like 4 or 5 times already. So recently that has been my main focus. I've really honed down on it. Meanwhile, my dad has actually been focusing on John Danaher's instructional, escaping from pins. So we've been kind of working here and there, trying to develop our skills and just kind of put these things to the test. I recorded some positional training that we did the other night because I really wanted to put this into test to see if it would work. Sometimes this particular training is hard to do in class because everybody's just trying to get, a free roll in, but we're really focusing. The guy on the bottom has to escape, and it's a win for him if his opponent has to dismount. Meanwhile, the guy on top can go for submissions or take the back. The ultimate focus is trying to maintain mount position. So without further ado, let's hop into the video. So immediately Dad's going for this, trying to go for the kip and escape of John Danaher's, but it looks like he bailed out on it. My ultimate objective is I definitely want to try to get an underhook started on the mount because it'll be a lot easier for him to go for a knee elbow escape if I don't control one of his arms. So here he goes turning to his side, trying to, I guess, trap my ankle here. But it's making it really difficult for him. While I definitely would consider this a dismount, we made some adjustments to the rules where you could go on the on belly, you just could not go to side control. So he's trying to scoop my leg. I isolate his arm on the opposite side, which makes it easier for me to go back into mount without worrying about a knee elbow escape. This figure walk technique is actually one of my favorites. If you get the mechanics right, you can do this on just about anybody, no matter how strong they are. So here I go walking the arm above the head, and finally I have both arms isolated above his head. So this is the perfect time to go to a high mount and transition to S mount, getting ready to set up this arm bar. The thing I like about this arm bar, you really don't have to lean back and go to your back to finish it. You could just finish it on top. Because I feel like their best opportunity to escape is usually whenever you go to fall back, because then that gives them just a little bit of space to wiggle their elbow out free. So immediately I'm looking to control his arms once again, and it looks like he's going to try to go on his side to once again go for the kip and escape. Very difficult escape to do, but he turns and completely gives me his back by mistake. If done properly, it should look something like this. So he's immediately trying to knee elbow escape, but it's going to be really difficult because he doesn't have that arm. I have the arm isolated, and I'm gradually putting it above his head. I think I got it across now. And I kind of lose the arm because the rash guards are, well, slippery rash guards. Typically what it would be in no-gi. But I'm mainly trying to focus on the submissions that Gordon Ryan was teaching us instructional. The ultimate objective of the strategy is to make people melt down. If you lose an arm, you finally isolate an arm above somebody's head, then you just repeat the process all over again. Ultimately, the person that's getting tired the most is the one trying to escape and protect their arms. So here we move out of frame, so we reset. So here he's playing a little more conservative, but I'm ready for any time he's gonna bridge. Because ultimately, if I have a cross wrist post like I do now, the side he bridges on is actually gonna help me pin the wrist to the ground. But ultimately, I wasn't entirely prepared for a bridge that powerful. I could have took his back, but I was so focused on keeping mount that it made me lose the position. And I should have just transitioned over, that was my bad. But again, I am a white belt after all. So he's trying to play tight elbows and cover his face up, but that gives me inside position underneath his elbow. So it's gonna be extremely difficult for him to do any kind of bridging or knee elbow escape here because my hips weren't on his hips. So now I kind of go back down because I have an arm isolated. And here I was trying to go for an arm triangle, but he turns and gives me his back anyway. And that completes round 1. So this time I'm actually gonna try the kip and escape straight into Ashigarami. This was actually one of the first moves John Danaher taught in that escaping instructional that I made. So I'm having a really difficult time trying to get my leg over onto his hip. I should be kipping just a little bit more here because my knee's already penetrated through. I had a hard time feeling like I could swing my leg over to his hip, but he ends up dismounting anyway, so I win the position. So immediately for this, you can tell I'm trying to look for some kind of leg drag, knee elbow escape. And honestly, that's kind of my bread and butter when it comes to escaping the mount. That and the trap bridge roll for sure. He's trying to threaten a guillotine here, but I immediately free my head out and escape into his guard. Here, where my hands are set up, I'm really looking for another kip and escape, but I end up bridging him over anyway by accident. He said he was super tired at this point. So he's finally getting the right idea by isolating an arm, but I immediately try to go for a kip and escape. I feel him threatening the triangle once again, but I also got my knee wedged in between his legs, so I know I'm really close. I just couldn't seem to finish the position, so I end up going double unders on mount and escape. So here's Gracie Combatives lesson number 1, the trap bridge roll. The trap and roll escape is my number 1 favorite mount escape of all time. If somebody's able to post out and keep their balance somehow, usually that opens up the knee elbow escape for me in mount, so they kind of go hand in hand. So here I give a strong bump to the side and I'm able to do the kip and escape straight into Ashigarami, which is pretty clean. And a very cheeky heel hook. So here he attempts to isolate an arm and he kind of goes into a modified mount, but because he doesn't have any control of that bottom arm, I'm really threatening the knee elbow escape once again, trying to trap the ankle. He moves up to an S mount, but I'm able to get both arms in, so I know I'm at danger of either a triangle or an arm bar, so I go out the back door and escape mount once again. Gracie Combatives lesson 1! I love it when people grab underneath your head like that because they're practically giving that to you. Here I go doing the same old, same old. His arm actually crosses his center line, which gives me a very easy gift wrap. So here I don't try to do anything fancy. I wanted to work on my back take, and look at this, chair sit back take. Right there, man. I think most of the time I'm just gonna try to go for a back take there anytime I get the gift wrap. So the one thing about the cross wrist post here, once you get in this position, it's not necessarily for control, but it is definitely for trying to pin the arm down. So that gives me an easy underhook. So I got the arm above, isolated above his head. So here, I'm actually gonna go for a katakatame or arm triangle. So here, I felt like I was deep enough, but I wanted to do the kip anyway for practice sake, and I end up getting swept over. Let's have a look at that once again. So my weight is definitely on the other side, but the thing is, I should have anticipated this roll, because people have done this to me in the past. I really should have anticipated a little better, because this is a perfect opportunity. With all that back exposure he's giving me, I could have used the claw grip to easily take his back. It should look a little something like this if done properly. And the funny thing is, I went to class the next night and was setting up an arm triangle on somebody, and he bridged the same exact way Dad did, and I immediately went for that back take and did it right. I am really glad I started recording rolling footage, because now I get to see a lot more of my mistakes that I can't see. He's really extending his limbs too much. I probably could have went for another arm bar, but we're really trying to focus on the techniques we have been learning on some of these instructionals. So here he goes trying to bridge. I put in a long hook. What I should have done is took his back, but I was too focused on trying to maintain mount once again. That is definitely my white beltness coming in clutch there. Here I can tell he's getting tired. I easily pin his arm to the ground this time, which gives me an easy underhook, isolating his arm above his head as usual. So here I do manage to isolate his arm above his head, but I feel like the knee elbow escape is definitely coming. So I go to a modified S mount. And instead of taking his back, I decided that I wanted to try out some of the head and arm series things that Gordon Ryan was showing in his instructional. We also paused here to readjust for the camera. I've really underestimated how powerful this position can be. I genuinely don't use it enough, but I've got complete control of his upper body and I have weightless legs, which gives me the opportunity to threaten both rear and front triangles. So I'm trying to pummel both legs underneath. He knew what I was going for. He told me that later. And he's just keeping his elbow tight, so I really don't feel like I have anything. But here I am trying to stay persistent, and I feel like I'm kind of losing the head and arm thing, so I know I might need to transition to something else. I could go for an easy arm bar, but I'm kind of looking for a three-quarter Jiu-Ji for sure. His head's still shelved, I know the triangle's there, but his head comes out, which gives me a great opportunity to go to a three-quarter Jiu-Ji, and he's trying to do this escape that he saw John do in his submission escape video. And here I go trying to break the grip, so I just patiently wait it out because I feel like his fingers are slipping. So I stay persistent, and bam! The one thing I prefer most about a three-quarter Jiu-Ji is it defeats all of their turning escapes. The escape was ultimately rendered useless because I had a three-quarter Jiu-Ji which completely pinned his shoulder to the mat. So here he's grabbing the pants, which actually gives me the best opportunity to go for an underhook because he had some inside elbow exposure. It actually feels like once you get one arm isolated above the head, the other one is so much easier to follow. One thing about this position though, while it is powerful and dominant, you are compromising your base of support because your elbows are very narrow. This was my mistake, not anticipating the bridge like I should have. Gordon actually showed how to prevent the bridge here, which was simply elevating your hips just a little bit so their bridge is rendered useless. And thus that reminds me of why I'm still a white belt. I never realized that commentating over jiu-jitsu rolling footage would be a lot harder than commentating over games that you're playing. But this was actually a really cool experiment. I got to go back and see a lot of things that I messed up on, which allowed me to go to particular parts in Gordon Ryan's instructional to see exactly what I did wrong. And guys, if you haven't had the instructional already, I highly recommend that you definitely do buy it. It's definitely worth buying for sure. What am I saying? All of his instructionals are worth buying. His, John Danaher's, Marcelo Garcia's, I mean, I can name 1,000 people. They're a lot better than me, that's for sure. But thank you guys so much for following me on my jiu-jitsu journey. I will see you in the next video.